I'm joined by Owen Auger, Agile Insights Principal Consultant for BI and Analytics. So, Owen, what tips do you have for someone who is learning Power BI?
Hi, great to be here. But for someone who's learning Power BI, my first tip is that you should really try to learn how Power BI works end to end. Even if you're only going to be using certain components of Power BI, it's good to work through even a tutorial or a mini project from end to end. So a great way to do that is I found with Microsoft's Dashboard in a Day training program. You can find this on Microsoft Learn, download the content, the training materials. You can also attend an in-person Dashboard in a Day session, but you can completely work through it yourself on your own computer. So the beauty of working through Dashboard in a Day is that you understand connecting to data, building a model and a report in Power BI Desktop. You work through publishing, you work through parts of the Power BI service. So it really helps you understand Power BI Desktop, Power Query, DAX, the complexities of semantic models, building a report, publishing and sharing. So once you've done that, you can then have a good overview of how Power BI fits together, how all the different components of desktop and the service work. And then depending on your role or your interests, you can then dive deeper into specific areas. But I think, yeah, my main tip is to get that overview of how it all fits together early on, and then you can easily more easily dive into certain areas later on and work with others who may specialize in areas that you don't specialize in, and you at least know what they're talking about. So yeah, that's my main tip for new learners for Power BI.
And what are some common mistakes that Power BI models or report builders should try to avoid?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think coming from other BI tools, people often have certain methods or habits that or techniques that don't work well with Power BI necessarily. So a big one is building a semantic model with one large flat table. That works in other scenarios. For example, people coming from Excel, it's often common to build quite a wide table with every possible column you might need in this one table, and then build pivot tables based on that table. And some other BI tools also commonly work with flat, wide table individual tables. So one table per report page, or one table per reporting area. Whereas uh, with Power BI, the best approach, and the one recommended by Microsoft, is to build a star schema which consists of dimension tables and fact tables. So another common mistake is for people coming from a database background, they may have a very normalized uh, form for their database tables, for example, third normal form, where you might have a chain of dimensions, for example, product category, product subcategory, and product. In Power BI, we generally like to combine dimensions, where dimensions like product or customer make sense from a business point of view, into one table. So you wouldn't have those three product category, product subcategory, and product. You wouldn't have those all separate in a Power BI model. You would join or merge them into a single dimension. So often the way data is stored in a database makes sense for a database, but not necessarily for a Power BI semantic model. So that all relates to building a star schema. As I mentioned, it makes your DAX easier. It makes report building easier. It makes more sense to the end users who, whether they're building reports or working on your semantic model, they are looking at business entities in tables in the Power BI model, as opposed to sort of a complex database type structure. So yeah, having your facts and dimensions, your customer table, product table, and say your sales table or your inventory table in a way that makes sense to the business is the thing you want to go for. Yeah. So those are my main tips for new Power BI report builders and model builders.
Okay, great. And what new Power BI features are you most excited about?
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of new features coming out every month. The one I'm particularly excited about is the DAX user-defined functions. So this is something that it really opens up a lot of possibilities for avoiding duplication of code and making more easily maintainable semantic models. So, for example, if you have a calculation that you always need to perform, such as customers that you need to filter on customers that purchased over a certain threshold in the last year, you might use that logic in a number of different measures. So you want to look at their sales volume for those customers. You want to look at the number of those customers. So you can write that logic that does the filtering. You can write it in a user-defined function, a DAX user-defined function, and then call on that wherever you need it. And if you ever change the logic, you just change it once in that user-defined function. So for people with programming backgrounds, functions will be something that they're used to working with, and it's kind of been a missing component of DAX for a number of years. Since DAX was first released, there was no ability to create functions as such. We did have calculation groups, which are great, and they serve a certain purpose, and they kind of overlap with functions, but functions are in themselves very useful for more generally avoiding writing the same code in different places to do the same thing. And you can now maintain that code in one place within a function. It's just gone into GA, DAX user-defined functions, and it is probably still subject to change, but I recommend anyone who's building semantic models to learn user-defined functions, and there are some great articles that have been published already on this topic. So I suggest getting up to speed with user-defined functions, even if you don't know when you're going to use them. At least knowing how they work, you'll definitely find opportunities to use them. Another feature that I'm really excited about is Fabric apps. So this is a Fabric feature, but it very much relates to Power BI, and that what you can do is take a Power BI semantic model and build something that looks like a Power BI report, but it's built more like a web page with more flexible ability to set up the logic of how that page works. So it's a bit like you've got your semantic model. You can write code that queries the semantic model and creates interactive elements on the page in a less restricted way than a Power BI report. So anyone that's built a Power BI report will know that you place objects on the canvas, they have certain functionality, you have filters, tables, other visuals, and there's predefined ways they interact. Fabric apps let you go beyond that and build something more flexible, more like a web page type look and feel, but still connected to your semantic model. So it's a newish feature, definitely worth exploring, and I've seen some creators in the community creating some great demonstrations of how Fabric apps can be used and go beyond what you can do with just Power BI reports. So definitely worth exploring. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And what are your go-to resources for learning about Power BI?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot out there that I keep up with to keep learning about Power BI. I firstly keep an eye on the monthly Power BI and Fabric update blog posts. I consider that the official source of what features are being released, what updates are coming, what's gone from preview into GA, for example. So yeah, there are separate Power BI and Fabric posts that come up, so I try to keep across both of those. There's quite a lot in every monthly update, so it's easy to miss a feature if even if you miss 1 month, there could be some features that you just miss. So if you haven't read those blog posts recently, I recommend going back maybe the last few months just to make sure you're up to speed with all the new features. Another great resource here at Agile Insights, we run some excellent training courses, really covering the gamut of Power BI. So we have a number of courses available, which again can be tailored to specific needs where possible. So covering everything from the semantic model building, DAX, the basics of Power BI, to visualization, to the Power BI service, and more advanced topics. So we really have a great suite of training courses. If you want to contact us, we'd be very happy to help find the right course to suit you and bring you and your team up to speed on whichever areas of Power BI you want to train in. So that's, yeah. And I think you can't go past the in-person courses, whether it's in person or online. It's just great to have that ability to ask questions, the kind of engagement, the seeing someone demonstrate something and then being able to do it yourself, I think is a great way to learn. As in addition to, you know, just reading content in the community. Yeah. So that's probably the second area I'd recommend. And apart from that, going to your local meetup groups, whether it's Fabric or Power BI, I think is another great way to get a hands-on feel for what people are doing in the community and gain tips and tricks from other Power BI and Fabric practitioners. We have a meetup group here in Sydney that is actually meeting monthly, most months, I believe. There are a whole lot of online meetup groups. If you search, you'll no doubt find some, whether locally or around the world, that you can join online. And yeah, that's just a great way to meet people who are working in the same area with Power BI and Fabric, and learn about areas that you might not have explored yourself. And even if you're up to it, if you're have a specific area that you'd like to present, inquire and see if you can present yourself. That's a great way to engage with the community. And I find by presenting to a group, you end up learning something yourself through questions that are asked or through the discussions that you have. So yeah, that's my other recommendation.
And